What is up? Happy Sunday Fun Day. Welcome on into Let's Bet It, presented by Superbook Sports. I'm Lauren Jabara. That's Jared Smith. Jared, I have nothing to say except for go blue, baby. That was an absolute ass-whooping beat down yesterday, and I feel really good today.
I'll be honest. Can I take my analyst hat off for like a minute?
Of course.
Yeah. Super jealous of the feeling that you had yesterday. As a Penn State fan, I don't know this feeling. It's not a feeling that I get very often ever. Going into the shoe, I've personally been to the Horseshoe for a Penn State-Ohio State game.
Yeah.
Saquon Barkley took the opening kickback for a touchdown. We had a 14-0 lead, and we lost. I think it was like 45-42 or some crazy score. And I remember leaving the game with my ex, who was a big Ohio State fan. We won't talk about that anymore. And I'm thinking to myself, man, like, how are we going to get this feeling? Like, what does Penn State have to do as a football program to get this feeling? And
yeah,
I think Michigan pretty much showed you the blueprint yesterday, just like they showed you the blueprint last year. Kick the shit out of the line of scrimmage and make some big plays down the field. I think the part that surprised me, and I'm sure you yesterday, was J.J. McCarthy just slinging it all over the yard.
Good.
Like, I don't think anyone expected that. I think that's the part of the game that everyone was like, well, if Michigan does that, they're going to be really tough to beat today. And they were tough to beat.
Yeah, especially not having Blake Corum. I think they only had him for like 2 snaps in the entire game, which is crazy. The fact that J.J. McCarthy stepped up the way that he did, got the win. Now we're in the college football playoff, baby. We're going to be breaking down. I know yesterday was crazy. Today's NFL Sunday. We're going to break down everything that happened yesterday, which there's a lot, and it's going to take us a lot of time to do tomorrow's show, so make sure to tune in on Monday morning. But today we got a lot of NFL to talk about. Week 12, baby. A lot of really exciting games. We already saw 3 of them being played on Thanksgiving. Now a lot more being played today. We'll start out with the injury updates. First of all, Justin Fields out today against the Jets. How does that impact that game?
Yeah, I mean, it's huge, right? Like, I would say the most dynamic quarterback right now of our little, mini NFL midseason, just comes on. I don't want to say out of nowhere, but based on what we saw very early in the season, I think it's fair to say Justin Fields is having one of the best midseason pushes of any quarterback in the league. He's pretty sure he's leading the NFL in quarterback rush yards and, really finding his stride with this Bears offense, and him being out today changes a lot. But that being said, there's no way in hell I'm laying 7 points with Mike White. And that needs to be your line of thinking with this game. There needs to be, especially with a total of 38. I mean, points clearly at a premium here. So just be very mindful running, Justin Fields is out, let's go bet the Jets. Yeah, I mean, that sounds good in theory, and Trevor Siemian's not exactly J.J. McCarthy, right? But I think there's going to be some issues if you just blindly put your money on Mike White as a 7-point favorite. That's just my thoughts on that. I hope the Jets blow him out, but it sounds too easy, right?
That line opened at Jets laying 4. Now they're laying 7 against the Bears. Magic Mike White, baby. That is a lot of points to be laying. Deebo Samuel, hamstring, questionable for San Francisco's Week 12 against the Saints. Do you think he will play?
Yeah, I don't know, man. These soft tissue injuries are really tough. The market let's see what the market's done overnight. I actually haven't looked at this game a whole lot. It's kind of been pretty stagnant actually throughout the week. We haven't seen much movement off of the 9, which is a very random non-key number. So you would think that if someone's really bullish on, if there's a sharp bettor out there really bullish on the Saints without Debo, they would have moved this by now, and they haven't. So, not really too keen on this game. I mean, the Niners obviously should win. It looks like a decent teaser spot if you go from 8.5 to 2.5. Most of the market is at 9, but there are some 8.5s out there. So that's a viable teaser option for you in a low total game, thinking the Niners are going to win. But man, Jimmy G and the Niners are another team that I don't love laying big points with. So I know Bobby's got a Jimmy G prop that we'll get to in a little bit, but I'm not really too keen on this game.
Yeah, a lot of Saints injuries today, or at least questionable injuries. Mark Ingram, knee, questionable for New Orleans in Week 12 against the Niners. Saints edge, Cameron Jordan, eye is questionable for Week 12. And Saints quarterback Marshawn Lattimore, abdomen, questionable for Week 12 against the 49ers. So all things to keep in mind when handicapping that game. Now let's take it to Raheem Mostert. Knee, doubtful for Miami's Week 12 game against the Texans. That could be kind of a big impact player as well for them.
Yeah, we gave this game out on Playbook this week, and if you have some time this morning, if you want to do a double header of Pickswise, you can watch us here, and then you've got about an hour and a half, 2 hours till the games start. Plenty of time to watch Pickswise Playbook. Myself and Mr. Barr and Tank Williams give you a little more in depth on all of these games. Mostert's injury is intriguing. I think the under in this game was my bet from the start. It's going to be my bet later in the show. I don't think Miami's going to have that killer instinct today. And the Texans starting Kyle Allen is obviously, not going to be a positive situation, I would say, for them. 2 touchdown spread right now with Miami, and it has steadily climbed all week. It hasn't moved since Thanksgiving, but when it opened at 10.5, it was like a escalator up to 14. And then we've kind of been stable at 14 for the last couple of days. The total has climbed to 47, and there has been no movement at 47 since Wednesday, which is when we recorded Playbook. And that is still available for you to bet that under at 47. So that's my play for this game. I don't feel very confident in Miami's offense being that explosive unit today. I'm sure they'll have their moments, but I think they're more focused on next week's game, which to me is going to be really fun. Niners, Dolphins, Mike McDaniel's return back to San Francisco. If I was Mike McDaniel, I would be very vanilla with my play calling today because Kyle Shanahan is watching and he is waiting.
Yes.
And D'Amico Ryans, really, with the defensive coordinator for the Niners, is watching and waiting, and they are very familiar with each other. So I would be really selective with my play calling today. And I don't think they need much to get past this Texans team. So that's kind of my vibe for this game. A little more slower moving. But without Mostert, it'd be a lot of Jeff Wilson. So maybe that's the prop to look at today.
Yeah, that line opened at 10.5. Now Dolphins are laying 14, almost 2 touchdowns against the Texans, which is pretty crazy. Leonard Fournette hit doubtful for Tampa's Week 12 against the Browns. How much does that impact that game?
Yeah, I mean, another game. I'll be honest, it's kind of one of those weeks where I've been watching. I mean, every morning I start my morning with coffee, and then usually I scan the NFL markets to see if there was any overnight movement, something that I missed. These sharp bettors like to lie in the weeds, and then at like 3, 4 in the morning when everyone's asleep, bang, they pounce and move the market by a point or two. Also because a lot of them are offshore, and so it's international time. But this is another game that we have not seen a lot of like movement on this week. Like I'm looking at right now the market at Westgate, and it's been painted 3.5 pretty much across the board since the 22nd. Like it's the 27th. We haven't seen one tick of movement in 5 days on this spread. Now the totals kind of fluctuated a little bit between 42.5 and 41, 41.5, 42. It's kind of bounced back and forth around those numbers over the last few days, but running backs don't typically have, any impact on the point spread, and this running back has not had any impact. I can tell you based on what I'm reading through the tea leaves here that it looks like the Bucs are a pretty heavy publicly bet team today. Take that what you will. So the contrarian angle absolutely is on Cleveland. I don't have anything on this game either. Tampa Bay should win. Cleveland's waiting to get back to Deshaun Watson next week. We'll see what offense they run and how aggressive they are with Brissett, what they put on tape. They want to keep all their ducks in a row for the return of Watson. But this one to me is, if you like the Bucs, maybe you get a 3, but I don't have any action here.
Yeah, and last but not least, Broncos head coach Nathaniel Hackett said Jerry Jeudy will not play in Week 12 for Denver against Carolina. That line, as we get into line moves, opened at Broncos laying 2.5. Now the Broncos only laying 1 against the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, this one has seen a little bit of movement. If you read our Pickswise best bets column that dropped on Thursday, we got 2 with Carolina, and I feel good about that bet. I think Carolina's the right side here. I think Sam Darnold offers a little bit of variance to this game, whereas with PJ Walker and with Baker Mayfield, I think the floor is the same. I mean, goodness gracious, Sam Darnold's floor cannot be any lower than Mayfield or Walker. And I think the ceiling is potentially higher because we don't really know what we're going to get with Sam Darnold. We know, like, it's a known commodity. Like PJ Walker, like Sam Darnold's ceiling is significantly higher than PJ Walker's. I would say it's marginally higher than Baker Mayfield's. But if it's slightly higher, the line probably isn't accounting for that because we just don't have any priors on Darnold this year. So I think there is a little bit of upside with Carolina here. They're at home. They're facing a Broncos offense that you just said without their best, offensive player basically in Jerry Jeudy. And Lord knows, you ain't trusting Russell Wilson as a road favorite right now, right? Like that can't be something
that's
you're
actually
betting on, right?
I'm not trusting Russell Wilson ever with this Broncos team. I mean, he hasn't shown me absolutely any season. So, yeah,
hell out of here.
Absolutely not. I know. Yeah. One more line move to talk about. We mentioned it a little bit. The Dolphins opened at laying 10.5, now laying 14 against the Texans. Why did we see such a significant move in that market there?
Got to be Kyle Allen. Because again, I like the way that I view this game is Miami just needs a W. They don't care about being that explosive Dolphins team that wants to show everyone how good they are on offense. This is one of those games where I don't care if it's by 1 point. Win the game, put a W in the win column, put a 1 in the win column and move on to San Francisco as healthy as possible. Because that game will determine a lot and, how we view this Dolphins team as a contender going forward. This game today, just win, baby. Doesn't matter by how much. So I think I could be wrong. I'm wrong all the freaking time. But I think we're going to see a vanilla game plan, run the ball, get to a lead, and then just down throttle and don't get anybody hurt in the second half. Because as this line is telling you, Miami should absolutely roll in this game.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting game to watch. Maybe. We'll be excited to see what Miami can do, not necessarily what the Texans can do. Let's bring in Bobby Stanley. We got some Week 12 props as we prop, lock, and drop it. Prop Holiday, how the heck are ya? Happy post-Thanksgiving Day. Week 12's upon us. You holding up strong after watching all that college football yesterday?
I am holding up. I'm holding up. Congratulations on your Michigan Wolverines. That was historic and epic and everything you want to see, especially as a casual college football fan. You love seeing an underdog.
So glad I didn't do another swag bet. You know how grateful I am that I wasn't working on Friday?
You were close, Jared.
Very, very grateful.
You were close.
Thank you to the schedule gods, a.k.a. Jacob and Dan and Kyle, for not putting me on Friday show and not forcing me to give out Ohio. I would have given out Ohio State. I bet Ohio State yesterday, and I would have gotten a lot of earwax for it.
No, but I hope the top 4. I'm excited to see what the top 4 shakes out to be. I'm hoping USC is in there. TCU would be nice to see there. Obviously, Michigan and Georgia. That's what we're all hoping. But
that should be the top 4. I want to see Georgia, USC, Michigan, TCU. That's what I want. Those are the matchups that I'd like to see. But
it's what we deserve. Whether we get that or not is another story.
Well, that's up to those teams, frankly. Totally. Next week, they got to win.
Yep.
We'll see how that all plays out next week. But today, we have week 12 of NFL. And we're getting it propping with you. First of all, the New York Jets, you're looking at one of their running backs right now with obviously no Zach Wilson starting today.
I am. I'm looking at Mr. Carter, Mr. Michael Carter, over 20 and a half receiving yards. Exactly what I was going for, Jared. Yeah, so 20 and a half receiving yards. It opened up at 18 and a half. I think it's at 21 and a half on certain books. Mike White is starting. We're going to beat this one to death. In 4 games with Mike White last season, Carter saw 23% target share, 31 receptions over the course of 4 games. I'm sorry, 31 targets over the course of 41 games. He averaged 59 receiving yards per game with Mike White under center. So big numbers for him in a small sample size. He'll be the check down option for Mike White, who's really just trying to get his feet wet. He's trying to manage the game, let this defense get the victory. So I love the running back check down option. We look at the Bears as a defensive matchup, allowing 30 and a half receiving yards per game to opposing running backs, 7.5 yards per reception to opposing running backs. It's a good spot. It's a good line. I think they're still not adjusting quite after last week's debacle. They don't know what to expect with Mike White. I'm going to use last year's data as a good sample size. So over 20 and a half receiving yards on Michael Carter.
The thing that first of all, I love about this handicap and just in general that I want you to tell to our audience, when quarterback switches happen, the way that they target certain and their strategies obviously changes certain offenses. In this particular case, it's like night and day with who Zach Wilson usually likes to target and what we had with Mike White, albeit a very small sample size. What's important, like when we get to, for example, this Jimmy Garoppolo handicap next, no Deebo Samuel today. Like, how does that change? Like when personnel moves, especially at the quarterback position, at the wide receiver position, when we're handicapping props, that's pretty much the name of the game. Like, what's that next layer that you need to look at to analyze? All right, this is how I get to this particular bet based off of who is in and who is out.
Well, I'm trying to track a trend. In this case with Mike White, I'm looking at a guy, he goes first option, second option, check down to running back. We have a strong enough sample size with a 23% target share on Mike White. Obviously, James Robinson is going to be your first and second down back, but they've been mixing Michael Carter in there on early downs. Yeah. So I think it's just a level of comfort. How can I pick up this first down? I just need to not lose the game, as we saw what Zach Wilson did last week. So checking down is a big thing. The target share is a big thing for me. And then obviously the opponent. It doesn't matter if he's going against, if Michael Carter's going against a defense that's completely shut out running backs in the receiving game all season. But we're looking at this matchup. Bears ranked 22nd overall in DVOA against short passes. That's another feather in my cap in this play. So you got to look at both sides.
Oh, you got cut out. We can't hear you.
Still with me?
Now we hear you. Now we
can. I'm sorry. My mic is so sensitive. I got to stop talking with my hands. It's a Jersey thing.
It's okay.
I do it all the time, man. I've knocked over my coffee before during shows.
To put a bow on this, it is a very good matchup in a situation where I think Mike White is going to want to target, and we've seen him do this in the past with Michael Carter. So I like the line low enough, and I like the matchup.
Yeah, let's take it out. 49ers taking on the New Orleans Saints. Saints missing a few of their defensive players, and you think Jimmy G could capitalize on this?
I do. So Jimmy G under 244.5 passing yards, and it's more schematic for me. I found a trend, or at least I thought I found a trend. Jimmy G is one of the best quarterbacks in the league against the blitz. He's number 1 in yards per attempt. He's number 2 in completion percentage against the blitz. Well, unfortunately, the Saints blitz the 24th fewest overall in the league, just about 17%. The Saints defense, yes, they're missing a few key pieces. Cam Jordan is expected to play big on that defensive line. They're 7th overall in opponent completion percentage, 7th overall in the yards per game passing, 10th overall in opponent pass yards per attempt. So it's a tough matchup for him. We talked about Deebo Samuel not being in the lineup. That's another piece that plays integral in this. And then the line itself. Obviously, this is a numbers game. 244.5 passing yards. Hasn't hit this in 3 straight games, despite completing 73% of his passes. So this line is all over the place. I saw it as low as 238. If I'm going with an under, I'm getting the best line I could find. 244.5. I'm fading Jimmy G today.
So the Rams aren't supposed to score a lot of points today. Or wait, is this? No, sorry, the Chargers. I looked at LA and
we can talk about the Rams. I'm ready for that one, man.
No, the Rams are not going to score a lot of points today. We're not going to talk about the Rams. But I do hope there's a lot of points in this Chargers game because I do have the over at 48. And you do have a 3-1, pretty juicy touchdown prop in this game. Please share.
Well, that was the big attraction. 3-1. Normally I come here with my 6 and 7 to 1s, but let's find something.
Yeah, you're going light today. Jeez.
It's a lot of sharp TD lines, believe it or not. I saw
really
-210.
Well, later in the year, right? Is that what you noticed? The later we go on.
100% later in the year. I mean, now is when we're starting to see those crazy -210, -190 for Jeff Wilson to score a touchdown. I'm not touching that. Those are Jonathan Taylor numbers from last year, but we do tend to see those later in the year. But as far as this play, Gerald Everett, tight end for the Chargers at +320. There's no Mike Williams. I look at the matchup. He's getting the Arizona Cardinals, who have given up 9 touchdowns to opposing tight ends this year. It's the worst in the league. Everett's been quiet. He's been quiet over the last, I want to say, 5 or 6 weeks, at least in the touchdown column. I do think he's going to get anywhere from 5 to 6 targets. So him to get a touchdown at +320 with no big body option, no Mike Williams today, even though Keenan Allen's playing, I think it's great value. So I'm going to take Everett to score a TD at +320.
I like it. Bobby Stanley, is there any chance the Rams cover +15.5?
All right, give him a little Rams question. Give him some love.
Give me a layup Rams question. Do I think they cover? I think they could. Bryce Perkins is a very good athlete. I watched him pretty extensively in the preseason. He's going to struggle to push the ball down the field. This defense, it's really going to show up on the defense. Can they stop Pachenko, who's been running like a madman these last 2 games, 80 yards each in the last 2? It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for them to cover the 15.5. There is a guy I have my eye on, Kyron Williams, the running back out of Notre Dame. It's going to be his 3rd game as a Ram. His over-under for receptions is only 1.5. Can he get 2 receptions? I love him to get 2 receptions today as a check down option. It's obviously a theme here.
Yeah, game script, right?
Game script
too.
Snaps. Darrell Henderson got cut. He was exclusively the 3rd down back last week with Cam Akers being in on 1st and 2nd down. So his role is to catch passes in this offense in a game they're going to be playing from behind. If you can get his 1.5 receptions, it's one of my favorite plays today.
I love it. Bobby Stanley, Prop Holiday, thank you for coming on and giving us your Week 12 plays. We'll be talking to you tomorrow for Monday Night Football. Until then, best of luck to your Rams to cover, and best of luck with all of your props today.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
All right, we're actually going to get into that. We're actually going to get into that Rams-Chiefs game, Jared, and I know we probably don't have a ton to talk about with it, but Rams have lost their last 4 games, including a loss to the Saints. Matt Stafford left their last game with a concussion. Chiefs, 4-game winning streak for them after taking care of the Chargers. Travis Kelce, monster again, 6 receptions, 115 yards, 3 touchdowns. I feel like heading into this season, a lot of people had this game circled on their calendars. Now that's tough with the way that the Rams are playing, and there's no Matt Stafford, Cooper Kupp out. Rams now massive underdogs. In the last 7 games between the two, the Rams have only won once. So something interesting to keep in mind. But 15.5 the Chiefs are laying. That's a lot of points. Would you feel comfortable laying that?
It's a lot of points. It's a lot of freaking points.
It's a lot of points.
It's a lot of freaking points. No, I would not feel comfortable laying that many points in the NFL. Even for me, Mr. Sharp. Although recently, to be fair though, I have had I'm on a little winning streak in NFL. It's been a bad year for me in NFL, but recently it's been a nice little streak. But I wouldn't even sniff this game. This game, I have 0 other than Bobby's prop. If you want to bet Kyron Williams, I like that handicap, but I don't have a very strong, affinity towards these games because there's really only 2 ways that they can go. Either you're really right and the Rams keep this very close and you're within the spread, or you're really wrong and the Chiefs just put the hammer down. Actually, because I didn't even handicap this game, I don't even know who do the Chiefs play next week. And I know I don't want to boil this down to look aheads because that's kind of more of a college handicap. And we saw some college teams yesterday get caught looking ahead. LSU, I'm looking at you. Clemson, I'm looking at you. So next week the Chiefs play at the Bengals. And I know you know this because we were at the Super Bowl last year. The Bengals beat the Chiefs in a pretty big game last season. In a game that nobody thought the Chiefs were going to lose. I think they were up 21-3 in the AFC Championship.
Yeah.
So if I'm Kansas City and I'm Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, I'm not saying that they are going to lose this game, but I would be shocked if they haven't already started to do some prep for the Bengals game. Just a hunch. Just a hunch.
I know.
That's kind of where I'm at with this game. I'm not betting it, and I don't really have any interest in betting it.
Yeah, speaking of the Bengals, I mean, that's the game we're talking about next. Another Week 12 key game, Bengals taking on the Titans. Right now, the Bengals laying 2.5 points. That total is set at 43.5. Two of the hottest teams in the AFC. Bengals have won 6 of their last 8 games. They won against the Steelers last week. The Titans are 7-1 straight up in their last 8 games. Big win against the Packers. Tannehill played great. Treylon Burks, caught 7 passes, 111 yards. I feel like the Bengals' key to success in this one is how will they be able to limit Derrick Henry, right? Like, do you feel comfortable laying the points with the Bengals on the road playing the Titans, or do you feel like this is more of a total game to bet?
So this actually is the best bet of the week in the column that was dropped on Thursday, and we got 3. It's my 3-star play on the site, and that was before the Jamar Chase news. Now, when I wrote, in fairness, because I'm not a disingenuous person and I'm not trying to lie to our audience, when I was writing up that game column, I did not expect Jamar Chase to be out. I wrote it up with the 50-50, he's going to play, but how healthy he's going to be. That was kind of my line of thinking when I wrote this up. But the reason that I really think already Tennessee was a step ahead in this market was because no Joe Mixon. And the Titans are really good against the run. So now you take Joe Mixon off the board and you have a Titans defense that's been fantastic against the run this year. 7th in schedule adjusted efficiency overall, 1st against the run. And they're one of those teams, we talked about this on Playbook, the Titans don't blitz a lot, 15% blitz rate, but they're top 10 in pressure. So they don't need a lot of allocation and manpower in the box to get pressure on Joe Burrow. Oh, by the way, the Bengals offensive line is basically Swiss cheese, 31st in pass block win rate this year. So even with Chase and Mixon, I thought the Titans were a live dog here. Now you take both of those guys out of the game. I don't know where Cincinnati gets the sustained offense from. Maybe this is the T. Higgins game where he just goes absolutely bananas. Maybe Samaje Perine pulls his head out of his Perine and, runs for 125 yards. But I don't know where the sustained offense is coming unless Joe Burrow just goes absolutely bonkers in this game. And again, they can't protect him for long stretches of time because their offensive line, again, is Swiss cheese. So when I look at this Bengals defense on the other side, well, they're 31st in run stop win rate. And in my notes, I say big day for Derrick Henry in a question mark. So a lot of matchup advantages for the Bengals or for the Titans in this game. And they're at home. And Mike Vrabel is just amazing as an underdog, 22-12 against the spread. And then the cherry on top, you want to talk about revenge game. Cincinnati went into Nashville last year and knocked off the Titans in the AFC divisional round by a very slim margin. True. I think Burrow got sacked 8 times in that game. So the Titans, who are a very well-coached team that always get up for their opponents under Vrabel, this seems like a perfect spot for them. I probably would bet the money line at this point. I wouldn't take the +1. I feel very good having a +3 in my back pocket. That's for sure. I'm not going to give it out on the show this morning because obviously that number's long gone, but I really like the Titans here. Long story short.
Yeah. I actually am betting the total for my best bet of the day, so make sure to stay tuned for that. Last but not least, key game, Packers, Eagles. Right now, the Eagles laying 6.5 points against the Green Bay Packers. This is going to be an interesting one because I feel like at the beginning of the week, or beginning of the season again, too, people also had this game maybe circled on their calendars, but it's a good Sunday night football showdown. The Packers followed up a win with the Cowboys with a loss to the aforementioned Titans. They need to win out to make the playoffs now. And the Eagles rebounded with their first loss with a 1-point win over the Colts. The Packers 1-4 on the road and haven't won away from Lambeau since week 3 over the Bucs. They're averaging 15 points per game on the road. Is that going to be enough to beat an Eagles team that's laying just under a touchdown?
What a strange game, right? Like the way I view this Packers team right now, they're not equipped to beat anybody. Especially a team that runs the ball. Like you saw what the Titans did last week. It was like the Packers had to load up the box to stop the run. And Tannehill had a lot of play action, and there was guys running free. And he even missed a couple of throws that I think maybe Jalen Hurts makes. And Jalen Hurts has so much more mobility than Ryan Tannehill. There's so many more options for Philly here against the Packers defense that they haven't been good this year. Like, that is the most surprising part of this season for Green Bay, is the same defense last year. That was, I would say not mediocre, but maybe slightly above mediocre. Their numbers were mediocre, but their talent was above mediocre. And they played really well down the stretch. They had the best record in the NFL, number 1 seed. And now this year, same personnel, same scheme. And they've just taken a massive step back. So that's the part of this handicap that I think Philly has the big edge. I think Aaron Rodgers will do, it's prime time. I'm assuming he'll at least be competitive here. It's the Packers defense that really scares me. And now Philly's offense has been a little volatile this year. When they're running the ball, they're really tough to beat. And I think they're going to be able to run the ball here. But the number's been pretty stable, right around 7. Pickswise, our pals, put out a clip earlier this week that I got tagged on Instagram and Twitter with about the magnet that is 7 with this game. It hasn't punched through that key number of 7. It's gotten to 7, and then it's gotten bought back down every single time. And over the last 3 days, we haven't seen it get back to 7. So I think 7's kind of that number that if the public has a really bad day and they're looking to, shove all their chips into the middle with the Eagles tonight because they see Green Bay's record and they don't want to trust Aaron Rodgers, and this does get back to 7, that's maybe the only time I'd consider betting Green Bay. But besides that, I think this is kind of a Eagles likely win. Maybe they cover, maybe you tease it. That's kind of my vibe on this game.
Yeah, I like it. Week 12 teasers. Talk teasers to me, Jared. Who do you got for your Week 12 teaser time?
I didn't bet any teasers this week, but I'll give you a few legs that are teasable. You want to move the Titans to 7? That sounds great, right? Especially in a low total game. You want to move the Panthers to 7? I mean, are the Broncos going to beat the Panthers by over a score? Have the Broncos beaten anyone by more than 1 score this year? I don't think so. And then you move the Jets to 1. I think that's another teasable option too. Again, that one has the most teaser value, I think, because it is the lowest total of the week. Excuse me, Carolina, Denver, the lowest. So those games have the most teaser value. Carolina, Denver, and Chicago, New York, because they're the lowest totals of the week. So 6 points in those games is a higher percentage of the overall total than in the other games. So I would say if you tied me down and made me bet a teaser this week, I would say it would be Carolina plus 7, Jets minus 1. I'm not betting it, but because I've action on, Carolina already, but that would be the teaser I think that makes the most sense to me this week.
I like it. Almost time for our Week 12 best bets of the day. But first of all, let's bet it. Presented by our friends at Superbook Sports. Pile up the wins and pile up the money with Superbook. Right now, the best betting app from Las Vegas is giving you free money every week you make a bet. Just place a $50 bet each week with Superbook, and they'll give you a $5 bonus up to $50 for betting each week afterward. So if you're in Arizona, Colorado, Iowa, Nevada, New Jersey, or Tennessee, download the Superbook Sports app today or visit Superbook.com to get your streak started. From Superbook.com, Jared, to Pickswise.com. 3-star play of the day. Who do we got?
A lot of fun today, as usual on a Sunday. Andrew Ortenberg chiming in. Jags, Ravens. Got Howard Bender. Raiders, Seahawks. Side and total. Howard is doubling down on the Raiders, Seahawks game. Side and total, 3-star. And then again, yours truly. It's kind of tough. I wish that I could change it now because I feel bad. People are probably logging on today and they're like Titans plus 3. That's not the line. Well, that's why you bet early in the week when we drop the column on Thursday and then you get the 3. Now you're not getting 3, but I would still bet the Titans today because I think they're winning outright.
It's going to be fun. Fun Week 12 to watch. Okay, play of the day. Yours. Who you got? 3-star. Your 3-star. Best bet. Yeah,
so the 3-stars Titans, I won't give that out here because it's doesn't really make sense to give that out here. But I will give you the under in Dolphins Texans. It's still at 47. It's been sitting there all week. just waiting to grab like that low-hanging fruit. And again, this, the Dolphins offense scares the crap out of me. I mean, they could absolutely wreck this handicap right out of the gate. Tyreek Hill could go 80 yards on the first play of the game, and I could be sitting there with my thumbs up my booty and scared at, under sweats from the first snap. But then I look at the other side of the ball and Kyle Allen starting here for Davis Mills. And, maybe they get a little bit of an early boost on script with this Texans offense. But overall, this is a Texans offense, I think, that is a play off. Dolphins off the bye. Hopefully their defense, which has been really maligned this year, is a little healthier, a little fresher, a little firmer up front. And then you talk about the overall handicap of who the Dolphins play next week. And Mike McDaniel not wanting to put a lot on tape against his former boss, Kyle Shanahan, who's waiting in the wings. Now, they have to play today as well. They also have a game where they're a big favorite. But I can see both teams, San Francisco and Miami, kind of down throttling a little bit. Because now we're at that point in the season where it's week 12. These guys have been at it for 3 months. They're tired. They're banged up. And they know that there's big games left in front of them. So when they face bad teams like the Texans, maybe not 100%. Maybe it's 80% Dolphins effort today, 85%. Not the full game script, a little vanilla. And that's why I think this game, the value to me skews to the under. 2 units on the under 47.
2 units, baby. He's betting big today. 2 units. My best bet of the day. I'm taking a look at that Bengals-Titans game. The total, 42.5. I'm seeing it right now, obviously with the no Jamar Chase news. I feel like this could be the T. Higgins game. I mean, he's been playing very, very good lately. You look at him last week, 148 yards on 9 receptions. And then you look at the Titans in their secondary, right? I love how the Bengals pass attack matches up with the Titans secondary. The Titans are a bottom 3 team when it comes to passing yards and completions allowed. Joe Burrow's averaging just under 315 passing yards, 2.5-ish, a little bit more than that, touchdowns per game over his last 5 games. And I feel like T. Higgins could be a really, really good option for him in this one. And then you look at the other side, the Titans. That all comes down to, can the Bengals limit Derrick Henry? And I know their run defense has been really solid this year. They've only given up around 113 rushing yards per game over the last 3 games. But then you look at a guy like Derrick Henry and his numbers. Not counting the last 2 weeks, I think he's going to want to come back out. But the last 2 weeks, he's had 87 rushing yards in 53. The weeks before that, 115, 219, 128, 102, 114. I think the last couple of weeks, he's kind of been off of his game a little bit. He's going to want to get back to the 100-plus rushing yard games. I just feel like this is a really, really good spot for the over. Also, the Bengals have gone over in each of their last 5 games. So if the trend is your friend, that's a good trend for you to follow. You love to see it. Week 12, guys. We're putting a bow on it. 1 more game tomorrow for Monday Night Football. We'll be breaking that down then. That's Jared Smith. I'm Lauren Jabara. Best of luck with your bets today, guys. Let's get it. Let's bet it. Presented by Superbook Sports.